the show this week, we take a first look at the much-awaited TVS bike, the Apache RR 310. And we test drive the Volvo XC60. We also go on a short drive with Mika Hakkinen while he was in Mumbai.
You've been waiting for this moment, I've been waiting for this moment, and after what seems like endless amounts of waiting, the time is finally here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, say hello to what is without doubt the most eagerly anticipated motorcycle of 2017, the TVS Apache RR 310.
The RR 310 is born of the striking Akula concept that stunned the world at the 2016 Auto Expo. As with most TVS concepts, the road bike has retained the base identity, but has evolved a fair deal from the aggressively sharp concept. Now, the name Akula comes from the Russian word for shark, and the RR 310 retains the concept's shark-inspired design language in its nose, tail and side fins along the fairing. The sharp face gets two LED projectors, each with its own angular LED daytime running lamp. The bodywork along the side is sleek and fit and finish are exemplary, the best we've seen to date from an Indian motorcycle. Special attention has been paid to the materials used, and some features like the lovely forged aluminium triple clamp, high quality switchgear and aluminium mirror stocks add to the premium feel. The bike also has some nice touches like the tricolor on the top right of the screen and the omega shaped LED tail lamp that is quite stunning to behold. And finally, the unique wheel design is the same as the Akula's platform sharing partner, the BMW G310R. In person, the RR 310 is a surprisingly big machine and could even be mistaken for a 600. The good news is that the overall design is executed very well and doesn't come across as overdone or disproportionate. So those of you who like your bikes with a serious amount of road presence are really going to like what the RR 310 has to offer.
With a large and sporty motorcycle like this, there are bound to be some concerns over seating comfort. Well, it's all good news here thanks to a low 810mm seat height that should be friendly for riders of all sizes, and a seating position which isn't too committed or uncomfortable as well, and this should be easy in the street too.
The RR 310 certainly got the looks. In fact, to my eyes, this is one of the nicest looking motorcycles to have emerged from an Indian manufacturer to date. But with all that show, it's vital that you've got a good dose of go as well, and that's where the 312cc engine comes into play. Now, this is essentially the same liquid-cooled, fuel-injected single-cylinder engine that's used by the BMW G310R. With 34 horsepower and 27 Nm of torque, we're happy to report that the TVS isn't a victim of detuning, and it boasts nearly identical figures to the BMW, but at slightly higher revs. But the engine isn't all the same, and TVS have their own completely home-developed fuel injection system that offers well-judged throttle response. The rear sprocket is also a different size, and TVS claims a top speed of 160 km/h, which is a good deal higher than the BMW's claimed figure of 143. TVS also has a patent-pending deflector that directs hot air downwards and away from the rider's legs, but this is a feature we can only properly experience in traffic conditions. So far, we've only got to sample the RR 310 on the racetrack, but the performance here is entertaining to say the least. The engine's 34 horses arrive in a thoroughly linear fashion, and this means a strong mid-range that builds and builds all the way to the red line.
The 6-speed gearbox is nice and precise too, and performance is properly brisk. However, the bars in the seat aren't completely free of vibrations, and these creep in above 6,500 RPM. Now it remains to be seen how this affects the on-road performance.
It is worth adding here that some bikes at the ride event were running considerably smoother than others that we tried. This could well be down to the fact that the engines were very new and not fully run in, so we'll reserve judgment on this for the full road test. On the track, the RR 310 shines with an impressive set of running gear, starting with a steel trellis chassis borrowed from the BMW, but tuned and set up by TVS for this application. The unique reverse tilting engine is positioned further ahead, freeing up a big distance from the engine to the rear wheel. This allows for the combination of a short wheelbase but a long swing arm, and that promises both low speed agility and high speed stability. Suspension is handled by a 41mm KYB upside down fork and a preload adjustable rear shock. The suspension setup is impressive with well-judged damping that offers good feedback under braking and in corners, but without feeling overtly stiff or harsh. Dual-channel ABS is on offer, and the Michelin Pilot Street tyres perform well in most situations, but we did find them a bit lacking for grip at high speeds and high lean angles. At the moment, there's not a lot to say about ride comfort on the street. However, despite the TVS Racing branding on the engine cases, we suspect that this could be an accomplished road bike as well, thanks to the effective windscreen, the potential for decent suspension comfort, and the reasonable riding position that's far milder than the likes of something like a Yamaha R15.
The RR 310 feels like a big bike beneath you in the best way possible. The handling is eager and the bike is very at home on the racetrack. Chassis stability is excellent, as are the brakes.
This bike comes with a big goodie bag of features, starting with what TVS claims will be segment-leading performance from the bi-LED headlamps. But there's much more in the form of hazard lights, sealed and contactless switchgear, a highly accurate fuel gauge, an advanced CAN bus electrical network system, and a unique vertical design for the instrument cluster. It takes a little getting used to, but the display offers all the information you need, including distance to empty, a gear shift indicator, a real-time fuel efficiency indicator, and even a lap timer. As far as build and quality go, this is easily the best finished and most premium feeling bike from TVS by a huge margin. It's also an encouraging yet properly accomplished track tool, but also promises to be fun on the street as well. But given the level of quality and equipment on offer, as well as the pedigree of the running gear, the RR 310 is certainly going to be positioned towards the premium side of the segment.
We've ridden the RR 310 a day before the press launch, so I don't have a price to share with you at the moment, but we do hope to update the video with it by the time you see it. Now, TVS says this is a premium motorcycle and it will be positioned as such. For now, it's proven itself to be great fun on the racetrack and has the potential to be a lovely road bike as well. We can't wait to ride it on the open road.
Stay tuned. Right after this break, it's Volvo's mid-size luxury sedan, the XC60.
Since Mercedes launched the GLC way back in 2016, its segment of mid-range luxury SUVs that cost approximately 50 lakh rupees has remained rather quiet. But the dormant segment is about to become one of the most active, as in the next couple of months alone, we are about to see the launch of a brand new Audi Q5, a brand new BMW X3, and even Lexus's quirky NX. But Volvo has beaten all of them to the punch with this, the brand new XC60, which will be one of the last few launches of 2017. It's a good looker, isn't it? And that's no wonder. It is based on the bigger XC90. It shares a platform with it and, of course, a lot of family resemblance. The difference is this is a 5-seater, not a 7-seater, and it's a lot more hunkered down and aggressive looking than the stately XC90. What I'm really curious about, though, is this car's specification. You see, it's being launched as a D5 inscription, and what that means is a 235 horsepower diesel engine and a load of equipment. I can't wait to try it out. Now, the inscription trim doesn't only imply that there's a lot of equipment in the car, although there is. It also tells you that this is a very well trimmed cabin. Now, of course, it's not at the same level as the bigger, more expensive 90 series cars, and you'll notice that in the more obvious use of plastic all over the dashboard, but it's very good quality plastic, so you really can't complain too much. And there's no dearth of fancy, expensive looking materials either. The big slab of wood from the dashboard may be missing, but now there is a thinner slab that bends and flows around the base of the dashboard, and it's finished in this car in a very attractive, light, pale, unvarnished wood finish. There's also loads of sumptuous soft leather, including on the steering wheel and the seats, Napa leather to be precise, and it all feels very, very top-notch indeed. front seats, well, as ever with Volvo, they offer medical grade levels of comfort and support. And couple that with a wide array of adjustments means it's really easy to get comfortable and stay comfortable on a long journey. And because this is the inscription trim, the front seats offer heating, cooling, massage and memory functions. And that will really be one of the XC60's main selling points, the fact that it's fully loaded with features, some of which are first in class, like those massaging seats. The list of goodies is vast: adjustable air suspension, 4-zone climate control, a heads-up display, a digital instrument cluster, and heated rear seats, to name just some. Then there's the super quick 9-inch portrait touchscreen with navigation, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, connected to a phenomenal 15-speaker Bowers & Wilkins audio system. In fact, it's got the same equipment list as the XC90. And because this is a Volvo, it has every conceivable form of active and passive safety system built into it, including all the radar-based ones. Whether you choose to use them on our roads, however, is up to you. You have to applaud Volvo's decision to offer the XC60 with the more powerful D5 version of its 2-litre diesel engine. In the XC90, it felt adequate. In the V90 Cross Country, it felt good. But in this car, it just feels effortless. It packs in 235 horsepower and 480 Newton meters of torque, which is quite a bit more than what most rivals 4-cylinder diesel engines offer. Now I'm sure once we strap our testing equipment to this car, it will return some pretty impressive times, but out on the road, in practice, it's not a very sporty engine. Like all other applications of this engine, it is very smooth, very linear and has a nice strong reserve of power, but you wouldn't want to rev the pants off it, nor do you get that solid hit in the mid-range. It's just very easy to drive and gives you a lot of confidence. And just like the engine, the handling isn't something you'd call sporty either. Yes, body control is pretty tidy when you switch to dynamic mode, and the steering does weigh up a little bit. And sure, it's a bit more agile than the bigger XC90. But as with most Volvos, this is not one for aggressive handling. The steering isn't quick, nor does it give you a lot of feedback, so it's best to drive the XC60 at a more relaxed pace. Now they've managed to do something really interesting with the ride quality of this car, and that's because they've given it air springs at all 4 corners, and that's quite impressive in this class of car. What that means is that you get this pillowy soft ride comfort that only air suspension can deliver, and it's also allowed Volvo to fit this car with big 19-inch alloy wheels. Now the 19-inch alloy wheels don't bother you too much, it's only when you go over a really sharp bump that you'd hear them thunk inside the cabin. And yes, there's the one downside of air suspension, that in comfort mode at least, if you're on the highway and going over some undulations, you will feel a little bit of float. Refinement too is really impressive, with very little noise entering the cabin, be it from the engine or the elements outside. Before we wind up though, a quick word on what life is like in the back seat. Now onto the back seat, and the thing you notice first is that when you open the door, the aperture isn't really all that wide and you have to climb around this little bit to get in. Once you're inside though, you'll find that there is plenty of knee room, plenty of headroom and a lot of support from this really well contoured and cushioned seat. Yes, a 5th passenger might have a little bit of trouble because of the contours and because of the wide central console, but for 2 back here, it's absolutely fine. You also get some nice goodies to keep you comfy, like 2 separate zones for the rear passenger compartment and of course this big glass roof. So if you're sat in the back of the XC60, you won't have too much of a problem at all. It's also got a sizable boot with a powered tailgate, powered flip-down rear seats and a space-saver spare tire stored under a flat floor. Now unfortunately, the price wasn't yet revealed at the time of this review, but we've been told to expect a slight premium over the current competition. But then Volvo always keeps its prices aggressive, so it won't be too much higher, and we expect this D5 Inscription, the only model available at launch, to cost about 55 lakh rupees ex-showroom. But don't write it off just yet. Remember, this car has more power and more equipment than the competition, so a small stretch of the budget might be worth it for some. In case it is not, less expensive variants will be introduced later, and though the XC60 is fully imported now, it will likely be locally assembled later too, and that should bring the prices down. With every new model it launches, Volvo establishes itself a stronger foothold in the Indian luxury car market. It started with the 90 series cars that set themselves apart for being luxurious, good-looking and really well equipped. Now, the XC60 continues that tradition with all of the same traits, but it's got its work cut out for it with a slew of really tough competition about to be launched. Still, with a package as strong as this, I'm happy to say we're in for a good fight.
Don't go away. Right after this break, Formula One champ in the flying fin Mika Hakkinen takes us for a drive. I'm in conversation with the flying fin Mika Hakkinen. Who would have thought that he'd be driving me around Mumbai city? Now, this is absolutely something special. So Mika, tell us, has Mumbai traffic absolutely shocked you?
My answer is yes. It's quite amazing how the people are driving in Mumbai and the quantity of the cars.
And I think one really has to have reflexes to drive in these kind of conditions that we see here. And you know, you're here for join the pact, build the safety. So what do you think that India really needs to improve, you know, the conditions that we have over here? Because there's not a lot of discipline.
Oh, that's a good question. When you have more than 1 billion people in a country and what you have to improve, it's quite a difficult me to comment too much. But what is important is always safety. Road safety is important. Never drink and drive, and join the pact. I think it's very important that the people always remember that stay in control is one of the most important things. So it's not all about think about yourself, it's think about the others. And when you are driving, and like today, we are driving here, is to keep the distance to other car and to make sure that you know your limits.
Yes.
It's very important.
And you know, you started driving when you were actually 5 years old. And you know, that's strange when we talk about safety to understand a child driving at 5, you know. Of course, it's in controlled environments, it's on a karting track and things like that. But do you think that, you know, it's actually better that when you start driving really young, because it sort of builds your skills, it builds your respect on the road? And do you think that more and more driving should be inculcated in a safe environment to younger people? Do you think that would help?
Yeah, that is correct also, but it doesn't only come from the young child. It's coming from the parents. In Finland, example, the conditions are very challenging, and winter time, example, in Finland, we have only maybe 1 hour or maximum 2 hours. We have to light. That's right. During a day, so it's very dark. And when you sit in the back seat, you have seat belts on, you look at how your parents are behaving when they're driving on the road, it already gives you indication that, okay, you have to be aware all the time of danger and the behavior on the road. And that's where everything should start. When you're talking about the kid who is 5 years old or 6 years old, you know, they cannot even read yet that age. Yeah. So it's a parent's job to give them indications and directions of life
What about autonomous driving? What do you think about autonomous driving? You know, for someone who loves being behind the wheel, does that make you feel that yes, you know, it could become a safer place with autonomous driving, or do you feel people have to be behind the wheel?
You mean automatic?
Yeah, you know, cars that are driving themselves these days. So the driverless cars that we talk about, the new technology that's coming.
Well, I think it's a good idea, of course. It is definitely a good idea because it brings the more safety to the roads.
But would you trust your life in the hands of a machine and say, okay, it's going to do everything? Do you feel like there has to be times when, you know, people control is still so much better than just the machine?
No.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
No, because if you jump in an elevator, you go to elevator, press the button, yes, you trust the elevator to take you up or down. You press the number and okay, it is where the, you know, the computer or the machine takes you. But the fact is, when you are really putting your family inside in a car, and this world, when we are sitting in a car and there's other cars around, it's a very complicated world.
That's right, yeah.
So elevator is a very good example because it's quite a simple moment. Yeah. But I don't think I could never feel comfortable in a car which is automatically driven by a computer.
Basically, you know, it took you also when you joined McLaren, it took a long while, 4 years, till you actually went and got a podium. And is there a lot that comes from the driver as well, you know, because you have to build your car, the technical knowledge, a lot of input comes from the driver as well. So is that a very important part of it as well when you're a racing car driver, to have a lot of technical background?
It's definitely correct. You need to have a lot of technical background. But the best thing, it has to come inside yourself. You know, you have to be curious. You want to understand, you know, like we're in a car today now sitting. I want to know everything, you know, how this works and this works. You're just going to sit, oh, nice car, nice to drive. No, I want to know everything. And when you know more information, you become a champion.
And the current drivers, you know, Lewis Hamilton, what is your opinion on the drivers of today?
They are great. There's quite a good number of talents out there. But if you look to my days and today's Grand Prix drivers, the competition level has become much more equal. Mm-hmm. Just because there's much more knowledge for drivers to learn to be better. But still the talents, couple of talents, still coming out from the rest.